What is up, everybody, and welcome to the first North American Online Qualifier Cup. My name is Josh Allen, a.k.a. Lore. Joining me today is Jared Colston, a.k.a. VHell. How's it going? We got a lot of matches, awesome matches, lined up for today.
We do. I've been following along on the brackets online for this cup. Saw a bunch of well-known teams get knocked out already, but that paves the way for a lot of new blood into the WoW esports team. I'm so excited for this qualifier. Yeah,
definitely. This is, like I said, the first of 3 qualifier cups we're going to have. In this qualifier cup, only one team will actually qualify for the the Americas regionals later this year, where they will be joined eventually by teams from Latin America and Australia, New Zealand, as well as another 5 teams from North America. So, but from this first online qualifier cup, only the winner will actually qualify today.
And one of the changes we have made, if you guys are taking a look at the rosters online, is that we're letting players use 4 players on each team, which is a huge change. When you think about the amount of comps that you can run with 4 different players, it's huge.
Yeah, of course, it is still a 3v3 arena situation, but that does give them a little bit of extra flexibility to bring in a sub and say, okay, versus this composition, I think we'd rather play this comp in this situation instead of playing another composition. So does definitely give a lot of extra flexibility. It means we get to see more compositions in the tournament as well, as everybody isn't locked into just their one that they signed up with. We can see a lot more flexibility and multi-classing out of players. And it's really great because a lot of the players that we actually have in our round of 8 today are actually very well known for being able to play multiple classes at a very high level.
Yeah, and then adding in that 4th, it just adds that one more layer of things that you can throw at the enemy team that they're not expecting. And so going into the first match of each of our rounds, we are going to be having both teams blind pick their comps, so the enemy team has no idea what they're going to be facing. Yeah,
definitely. They can get a little bit of an idea because they know who they're going up against, but there will be that sort of extra surprise, like maybe they can throw something crazy at them from the beginning and so on. So let's go ahead and take a look at the brackets really quick of all of the matches that we're going to see today. Starting off in the round of 8, it's all going to be best of 3. We're going to start off with Shake It Off versus Nihow. That's going to be our first 2 teams that we see today. And these guys have actually hit each other a lot in the GCD tournaments in the past.
Yeah, they have. Shake It Off, kind of a crowd favorite from the GCD tournaments. They've won a lot of tournaments. Really young players on this team, too, so it's good to see those new players step it up. It's always that time around the year where regionals, we start to see these new faces come into the WoW scene. I love it.
Definitely. So after that match, we will have GOML versus Is Butter a Carb, which is a great question, by the way. Thank you very much for asking that. We'll have Luminosity versus Tony Del Bronx. And Tony Del Bronx, interesting note, is actually Supateese's team. It's the team that he plays on. And he was actually just last night casting in Australia for the Australia-New Zealand qualifiers. So I'm not sure if we're going to see him play today or if he'll be playing from Australia, bringing the thunder from down under. I'm really sorry. That was terrible. I should never have done that. And then the final match in our round of 8 will be Tempo Storm versus Hands Up.
And I think that's the first match from the round of 8 that I think is going to be the big match to watch. Of course, Tempo Storm had a lot of well-known players. Of course, we have Peekaboo, Ja, and Elite, which we saw them running that comp, and they actually defeated Method last night and knocked him out of the tournament.
Yeah, and that was an insanely close match, too. I know, obviously, it was not broadcast, but we had some admins in there. I believe you were actually able to get in there as well and watch that match as it actually played out, the Method versus Tempo Storm match yesterday.
Yeah, I sat down last night on WoW, and I got an invite to a group, and they're like, hey, you want to spectate Method? And I was like, yeah, sure. And it was extremely close. It was awesome to see Azael come out of retirement for this tournament and do an amazing job. Watching them practice on each other's streams for a while this last week, but he really picked it back up, and it was an extremely close 2-1 victory for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, definitely. And so that actually is a very, very good point to sort of land on here, is that this is a single elimination qualifier. If you lose a match, any of these teams that play today, if they lose a match, and if they had lost a match up until this point, they would have been knocked out. From here on, if they lose a match, they still get knocked out. It's important to note that there are still, like I said earlier, those 2 follow-up qualifier cups. So there will be a chance to go back and try again if any of these teams lose today. But, again, single elimination, that's a pretty big deal. So I want to take a second really quick to give a huge shout out to the folks from GCD TV for the sheer amount of effort they've been putting in to actually manage and admin this tournament for us. It's been a ton of work, and it's been absolutely amazing being able to work with these guys. They've really sort of breathed a lot of life into the WoW Arena tournament scene lately.
They definitely have. Once we saw the spectator mode being put into the game, right when 6.0 came out, it was great seeing those guys, start asking Blizzard a lot of questions. Can we use this? How do we use this? Who should we contact about getting an add-on made, and that kind of stuff. And then they've done what, 21, 22 tournaments at this point, a weekly tournament. It was great for WoW Esports.
Yeah, definitely. So you should absolutely check those guys out. Like I said, they've been amazing. They've been helping us out with these online qualifiers as well. But once the online qualifiers are all wrapped up, they're going to go right back to their normal schedule of pretty much every weekend. It's every Friday and Saturday at twitch.tv/GCDTV. So if you love arenas, now is a really, really great time to just catch all the arena action every single week. You can find them at twitch.tv/GCDTV. You can follow them on Twitter at twitter.com/GCDTV_. There's an underscore on the end of it. Feel free to follow the Warcraft Facebook and Twitter as well at facebook.com/Warcraft, twitter.com/Warcraft. You can follow me on CM_lore. You can follow Jared on IMVHell. But enough about all of that. The match is just about to get started. We are going to have our first match here between Team Shake It Off and Team Nihow. We're going to be getting to that game very, very shortly. But let's talk a little bit about these two teams. We did mention them a little bit before. Team Shake It Off, obviously they've done extremely well. That's going to be... 1 second here, excuse me. It's going to be Inviable. No, excuse me, that's the wrong team. It's going to be Majidin, Asbur, Feloria, and CMG are the 4 people on Team Shake It Off. And then on Team Nihow, there is Inviable, Cyfoxy, Vincent Wong, and Velido. And oh man, we have a double DK on our Nihow team.
I do like this. The great strength of Shake It Off is they will play the game out and they will retreat constantly when they don't find a way to score a kill, and especially because these DKs can put out so much pressure. It does look like they are both dual wielding too, so if they get trained and forced into blood, that is going to drop their damage a ton in this match. So we'll have to see if Absur and Majidin can start it off things quickly. Of course, Absur looking for his target right away, but just lots of damage coming out right now. Look at the stun already onto Velido, who's going to sit into it. Plus, you can see Feloria already getting in there. And wow, look at all the cooldowns used from Velido already. The CC coming out on to Vincent Wong, which forced an AMS really early from Velido.
Yeah, he's definitely taking a lot of damage right now, and it's worth noting that Inviable has been kind of just hiding behind the pillar this entire time. He was stuck into a polymorph there very briefly, and he did actually use his Pillar of Frost as well. He's going to get cycloned off of that as the Pillar of Frost wears off. But Velido has not yet used any of his offensive cooldowns, but he's in a lot of trouble right now, taking so much damage stuck out here. Does not have his AMS up yet. He's going to have to retreat over here, try to get behind the pillar, and be able to heal back up. And as Vincent Wong comes over there with his Avenging Wrath active, Velido should be fine for now. He is going to be stuck into that stun very briefly. He's going to go ahead and get broken out of that right away. But Vincent Wong now into a full cyclone. Velido is just on the back foot constantly. They're having to play so defensive and haven't been able to put out that pressure that they really want to be able to do with this double DK composition.
And you can see tons of CC onto Vincent already. He'd had to use wings and shield already, so this isn't looking good. He does have that trinket available, but as you can see with Majidin getting kind of low with Velido sitting on his back, it was an interesting choice. I was wrong. Actually, Velido is going to be running two-hand, so he's going to be the member of the team that can put out pressure if he's focused, but Inviable choosing to use the dual wield Frost. Feloria also hasn't had to use very many cooldowns, as you can see down at the bottom. Hasn't used Trinket, hasn't used Bop, hasn't used Wings, nothing so far.
Yeah, and Velido is actually swapped back to using one-handers. He may actually just be switching in the middle of this, switching between weapons, because you can switch weapons in combat, I believe. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that. It may be just some sort of next-level DK play, switching back and forth between the two. I would not be surprised. These are some very, very good players, but Velido having to use that AMS and getting the Save by the Light proc as well, possibly in a lot of trouble here still, as Vincent Wong is into that full polymorph. Vincent does have his Trinket. He's going to go ahead and choose to save that, using double anti-magic zone to try and reduce that damage a little bit still. But Vincent Wong into that Cyclone. He has the Trinket right away, but immediately the Deep Freeze is followed up. Velido is going to go down.
Yeah, Vincent Wong just eating so much CC during that. The whole chain that started there was, of course, the root beam coming out of Absur, doing a great job of pushing up, just forcing that CC out. And one of the things that I don't think went that well for Team Nihow is they were playing right on top of these two casters. And that's really rough because anytime that they want to, you know, every time the Moonkin wants to throw a Cyclone, it's going to be really hard for Vincent to stay on top of that and LOS on the pillar because they were right on top of each other.
Yeah, definitely. They were having to play so defensive for that entire match. And when you're playing something a little bit cheesy, I want to say, like Double DK, you really want to be able to be as aggressive as possible because the longer you give your opponents a chance to sort of react and go, oh, it's Double DK, how do we deal with this, and sort of adjust to that, the longer they're actually able to do that. And having to play defensive, so defensive for the early parts of that match, it really didn't go well for them.
No, it didn't. And with the scoreboard numbers that I took a look at, the big thing to note is that all the Pillar of Frost that came out of both Inviolable and Veludu were completely countered. We saw a Cyclone on it, or they just had to immediately switch to Blood and go back and play defensive. I didn't see any big numbers out of them. 35k Frost Strikes was their hardest hit, and that's nothing for Frost DK.
Yeah, really, they were just not able to put out the pressure that they needed to in that match. So we're going to have to see if they end up going with a similar composition yet again. Like we said earlier, the losing team will have their opportunity first to pick the match. In fact, I actually don't remember if we went through this whole thing, so let's go ahead and explain how this is going to work from here. The first team will have the losing team will have their option to pick the match immediately after the game is over with. After that, the winning team has to declare their composition. They do have the opportunity to change it there, so if they were to pick something, let's say like Blade's Edge or something, where certain compositions just are at an extreme disadvantage on a map like Blade's Edge, they would be able to change that up and say, okay, well, we're not going to play the comp that auto loses on Blade's Edge. We're going to switch that to something else. But after that, the losing team has the opportunity to pick their composition, so they can sort of base their judgment off of what the winning team actually picked. And I think this is a really, really great change. It gives the team that loses on that first match an opportunity to say, okay, you know what? We can switch up a whole bunch of stuff, and we can try to come back again from here and get the opportunity to take this next win. Gives them a little bit more of an even playing field in that second match and the opportunity to come back in that third match. Obviously, winning the first match is still really, really super important.
Oh, it is.
Because they're now up 1-0. They only have to win one more match. But Team Nihow definitely still has a chance, and we'll have to see if they end up changing up their composition here.
Yeah, it looks like we do have the comps locked in. We're just waiting for a map choice to get you guys back into this action. An exciting first match, and you know, I really liked that they threw the Double DK at them. It didn't pay off, but it was a really good idea. I think that they had the opportunity, if they would have maybe lined a little bit of CC better, but it's tough when both of those casters are so durable that, and especially with Flora backing them up. He did a great job of choosing when to do damage. We saw a lot of denounces coming out, stopping that Frost DK damage, and you know, when you can't crit, it's a tough.
Yeah, definitely. So we do have our map and comp choices both in at this point. Nihow is going to choose Dalaran Sewers as their map choice, and both teams have actually changed their comps a little bit. Of course, after the map choice was made by Team Nihow, which is Dalaran Sewers, the winning team, which was Shake It Off, they are actually switching their composition to Shadow Priest, Holy Paladin, and Frost Mage. So playing a little bit of that God comp in this next match. And then the losing team, Nihow, they're actually switching up as well. They're going to be Enhanced Shaman, Frost Death Knight, and Holy Paladin. So sort of a mix on what's occasionally known as a Turbo Cleave, but with a Death Knight instead of a Warrior in that composition. This is going to be a really, really interesting match to see, I think.
It is, and I have a feeling that they were expecting the Moonkin too, and expecting the whole let's run away for a while and wait for some cooldowns to come back kind of play. With the Shadow Priest in here, however, they're going to be able to set up some CC chains from a very long, from almost all the way across the map. So Vincent is going to be in some trouble for this match. However, he is going to be able to rely on those Enhance heals, which can spread out the map a lot. One of the things I do like about Enhance this season, though, is they definitely grew into their gear. We saw them in last season playing Turbo, where they really extended the match a lot by that off healing. But now their damage is nothing to be ashamed of at this point. You know, you can see them put up a lot of great numbers towards the end of the match. Right out of the start, we'll follow Majidin to see if he can start that initial CC in that invis. right now, trying to get the polymorph out, and it looks like it does land on Veladu right there with it deep into Vincent, already using the Icy Veins, trying to get out as many casts in. Wow, look at that Shamanistic Rage immediately from close combat, the Enhanced Shaman, as we do look at all the damage. Saved by the Light proc already because of that Devouring Plague on him. This is a great job by Shake It Off, already putting out that pressure.
Yeah, definitely. They actually said earlier that they were not super comfortable playing God Comp, so it's interesting to see how well they're actually doing so far. It's a composition that they said, well, we're only going to play this if we have to, but close combat super low already, trying to stay alive, but no, just so much damage coming out from Shake It Off, and that is going to be a very, very quick 2-0 victory for Team Shake It Off.
It was, and that burst damage coming out from the Ice Nova and Mind Blast, that was a great job, and even Floria coming in with that Hammer of Wrath at the end, sealing the deal. One of the things to note is close combat tried to use Stone Form towards the end there and actually purged off the Vampiric Touch and actually feared himself during that, which I know that was right at the end, but interesting to see that happen right at the end. And we saw the bubble come out of Vincent, but I think it was just a second too late, you know, on that global from the bubble and then trying to wings and heal, but not enough.
Yeah, the sheer burst damage potential from that Shadow Priest Frost Mage composition, you get that, Devouring Plague. Sorry, it wouldn't be a cast if I didn't blank on the name of an ability. You get that Devouring Plague out, you get the Icicles coming from the Frost Mage, you get the Comet Storm, you get the Ice Novas. There's so much damage that can happen in such a hurry on somebody that oftentimes it'll take people completely by surprise. And that looked a lot like what happened there from Team Nihow, as they just were not prepared for the sheer amount of damage coming out from Team Shake It Off. I guess it's also important to point out that these are all using tournament gear, these matches. So these players are essentially fully geared, and if they've been laddering a lot lately, they're probably facing opponents that are missing several pieces of gear still from their full Conquest set. So the numbers are just going to be a little bit higher in this tournament, I think, than a lot of players are going to be used to.
Yeah, the meta changes, of course, during the whole season. Of course, the Week of Weapons was this week if everyone was keeping up on their Conquest caps and kept them really high. So we saw a lot of shifts with a lot of melee classes doing a lot better this week, but casters are still strong as ever in full gear. So it'll be interesting to see out of these tournaments what the new meta is and what comps seem to do better, because, you know, a lot of people thought that this Shake It Off team, you know, they dropped maybe, what, 10 matches this entire season so far?
Yeah.
So we'll see if anyone does have the comp that will kind of throw these guys off their game.
Yeah, definitely, and we will be finding out very, very soon who they will be facing off against in the next round. In fact, if we can take a look at the brackets here very quickly, we'll go ahead and take a look at who they're going to be facing off against next. The next match we'll be playing is going to be between Team GOML and Team Is Butter a Carb.